Thank you. I am very happy to see all you here, and I give my greetings. And I think that we need to do, as the Pope say, hacer lío. In English is I don't know exactly because not to have a translation. Anyway, like Joaquates terremoto this morning, you know, this is a good preparation. We need to do something like this. Shaking to be present in the future, to be present in the future. With our responsibility in the work, in the study, in the solidarity with the people. And I want to synthesize, summarize the encyclical of the Pope that is our inspiration. But the very important thing is that we have a kind of synergy between the spirit of the Pope and the spirit of the United Nations, that we say is the same spirit to illuminate it, both great institutions. And I want to speak about the spirit of the Pope that is in the encyclical Laudato Si, and Jeffrey want to speak about the spirit of the United Nations and the last decisions that does this new project. And this new project is just a project that you need to realize in your generation. I want to speak, and I begin to speak about the Laudato Si. Sorry, it's important to que sea grande. So the message of the encyclical Laudato Si is that this is the subject of my speech. We can summarize all the text in this very nice sentence. We are called to be instruments of God, our Father, so that our plan might be what He designed when He created it, and correspond with His plan of peace, beauty, and fullness. This is more or less the same idea of Francis of Assisi when say we are instrument of peace, instrument of God to give peace especially, and to try to be salvation for all people, especially for the poor. And the first thing is that we need to have an ecological conversion. And this ecological conversion is a completely new idea in the magister of the church, because it's like an extension about our responsibility with the earth, and not only with our humans, that was in reality all the doctrine of the church. And this is to say that we have also responsibility in the custody, but also in the development of the land and of the earth. Of course, on all creation, but the creation is too big, and we don't have the possibility to change the sun or the constellation, but we have the possibility to have intervention, negative and also positive, in the earth. And this is the idea, that we need to be responsible of our actions in relation with the earth. And this is the great new and the Pope called this ecological, because eco is the idea of house in Greek, and logical is to put order in the house. And so it's an ecological conversion. And really, this is a new extension of the ideas of our responsibility we call this doctrine of social doctrine of the Church. But the Pope have also for this 3 centers. One center is the theology. The other center is the assumption of the new date of the sciences, natural sciences and social sciences. And these are the 3 great contents of this ecological conversion. But the point of view theological is very nice because the Pope assumed the new ideas about evolution, and not only explain the creation as dependency of God, that is the traditional sense, because all things are created by God, the being and the life, but also in the sense of the end. We are created by God, but we go to a realization, to una evolution, to go to the planification of this creation. And for this, he take a very nice text of Thomas Aquinas that really is in a comment that Thomas Aquinas made to Aristotle that say, what is nature? What is there? Nature is nothing other than a certain kind of art, namely God's art, impressed upon things, whereby those things are moved to a determinate end. And the nice is the comparison. It is as if a ship builder were able to give timbers the wherein width to move themselves to take the form of a ship. That is, like the things in himself have this movement to take the new form and to take the new end. That is just the evolution. The idea of evolution, that is the theology that the Pope used to explain our responsibility in the creation is the general idea about evolution, and we are collaborators of this evolution of God because we need to develop the potentialities that are in the land, in the earth, in relation with this finality. And this is, in synthesis, the theology. And what are the natural science, the assumption that the adoption that the Pope take of the natural sciences? And the more important is that we need, because to have a description about the earth, it's clear that the Bible only have an explanation about the origin and about the science in the moment of the redaction of the Bible, but not speak about climate change, not speak about global warming. And these are a terminology that come from natural sciences. And we have here in the Academy 3 very important persons that was in the beginning of this description of the concrete situation of there today. And these people, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, begin to say, look, the situation of the climate is not good, because they are the tendency to the global warming. Of course, this tendency of the global warming in the end can make alteration in the cycle of the water, and this could be terrible because the water is the mother of the life in the end. And one of these scientists called this that for the first time we have that the human activity have some determination in the climate. And in this case, negative determination because produce this just global warming. And especially because this human activity use the material that is in the end fossil material, that is the oil and carbon. But in synthesis, it's very strong, the idea of the Pope. I want to find the text that say, he goes to affirm clearly that in recent decades, this warming has been accompanied by a constant rise in the sea level and in Guadalquivir by an increase of extreme weather events, even if a significant scientifically determined cause cannot be assigned to each particular phenomenon. But go, you know, this is a photograph of the recent problems in Paris and floods. That is really an event completely not normal. And the Pope did say there are other factors such as volcanic activity, variation in the Earth's orbit, an axis, and the solar cycle. But the real cause of this climate change, global warming, is this. A number of scientific studies indicate that most global warming in recent decades is due to the great concentration of greenhouse gas, carbon, methane, nitrogen, released namely as a result of human activity. This is the question. Is the human activity to use this material fossil to produce this global change and this global warming and this alteration of the climate? This is very important because this idea comes from sciences, but the Pope say this is true, and I can say with my authority that this is a very important idea and it's true, and we need to consider that we need to change. And many ideas that the Pope take are not directly in the gospel. Many ideas come from philosophy. For example, when we speak that the end of our activity is the common good, it's not in the gospel. This is an idea that comes from the Greeks, from Aristotle. Or when we say the human person is the center of the social doctrine of the church, this is an idea that is not in the gospel directly. This is an idea to come from philosophy, the idea of human person, from philosophy and from maybe jurists in the first moment. But anyway, the Pope take these ideas and say these ideas are implicit in the gospel. And in the same way, in this case, the Pope take an idea that comes from sciences and say this is true, and we need to consider this and in consequence to change. This is the first idea, a more important idea that take from the sciences, but there are many others. For example, all the problem of biodiversity that the Pope say, other cause of this is that not respect the biodiversity, that it's very important to respect the biodiversity. And of course, there are, and these are more or less the more important ideas, but there are others that come from sciences. But the Pope also takes another idea that comes from social sciences. And the idea that comes from social sciences is that the consequence of this global warming is especially for the poor people. The poor people suffer especially the consequence of this. The poor people of the rich countries, we can think about the United States, that is a very rich country, the more rich country, but there are poor people in this. And these poor people suffer the consequence of this global warming, and maybe not use this new form of energy. And also the poor countries, for example, the Philippines. The Philippines is a poor country, a potentiality, but in reality it's a poor country, and suffer the consequence of the use of the energy that comes from petrol, and not have the possibility to have the use of this energy. And this is the other consequence that the Pope indicates very clear, and of course this comes from the social sciences. So, what is the consequence? The Pope says, we are in time, and the human being, just if his activity in some time can be not good for the air, the human being can do the things in a good way. And what is this good way? For the point of view of the social sciences and natural sciences, is the sustainable development. That is more or less the general idea of the new objective that come from the United Nations. And in the end, is the continuation of the idea also of the magisterium of the other Pope, for example, Paul VI, that say we need to discover the real potentiality that are in the earth, to use this potentiality, to activate this potentiality in the service of the human being. And this is the general idea in relation with the nature. But for the point of view moral, we need to come back to a new ethic, we can say, that is the ethic of the Beatitude of the Gospel. Because the ethic of the Beatitude of the Gospel have in the end, consider in the end the sufferance of the people. The people that suffer because it's poor, the people that have suffered because have the idea of the justice, or suffer because suffer the injustice. And all these Beatitudes are in this idea that the sufferance of the other is a gift. That is the question new. We need to consider to help the other people that suffer is a gift that we can have if we arrive to resolve the problem of the suffering of the other. That is to say that the real sufferance of the other people, we need to consider a gift that God gives us to our possibility of the human development. And this is the new ethic that the Pope wants to put in the center, that is in relation with the other sentence that have in the Gospel that say, in Matthew 25, that in the last moment of our life, God can make a choice and say, what do you do with the people, with your brothers that are more suffering, that have more necessity than the others. And this is, in the end, our love is in relation with the sufferings of the others. And this is, the Pope is really very concerned about this, and we can say the main proposal of his pontificate is to come back to this central message of Christ, that is, we need to love, especially the people who are more necessity, the people to suffer, the people who are marginalized, the people that is excluded of the society, and this is the real criteria, the last criteria of our life. Thank you.